I'm Caleb Giddings from Gun Nuts Media, and I haven't used that intro in a while for a number of reasons, but one of which is that 5 years ago I made a video that I think it would be fair to say changed my life. And so I want to start this video by offering a sincere apology to not just Paul Harrell, rest in peace, but to his family, his friends, and to a large portion of his fans. I never intended for that video that I made all those years ago to cause the amount of hurt and anger and frustration and heartache and drama that it caused. And I realized that even if I had a legitimate criticism of Paul's content or anything like that, that there's a better way to do it. And so I want to say that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I said in the video. I'm sorry for the way I approached that subject, and I'm sorry for the way that the video was edited and presented. It was never my intention to cause pain or hurt or anything like that. So again, from the bottom of my heart and genuinely, I'm sorry. And I wish that if I could go back in time, I would never shot that fucking video. And if that's the only part of this video that you watch, then I hope you take from it that I genuinely am sorry and I genuinely regret that. And you can leave and feel better about whatever it is, right? But if you would like to stick around, I know that the act of me apologizing in and of itself will raise questions from people. And the first of those questions is probably, well, why now? Why wait 5 years? And that's a fair question. It's a very fair question, because why now? Why wait 5 years? And I will say, in order to keep my thoughts organized on this, I have some notes here, and I want to make sure that I'm referencing these because I've had a lot of time to think about this. And that's kind of the first part of why wait so long and why do this now. And so we'll kind of get into this. The first part of why I waited so long is because for the longest time I wasn't sorry. And I don't believe in apologizing for things that you're not actually sorry for. I think that's disingenuous, and I think a lot of times people will use fake apologies to try to get out of trouble for stuff, right? They'll be like, oh, I did this thing and there was massive blowback and now I'm gonna apologize for it even if I don't really feel sorry, even if I don't believe my own apology, right? And I've never liked that about people. I've never liked it when it happens in online spaces. And so I've always sort of had this rule that I won't do that myself. I don't want to apologize for things that I'm not sorry for. And for the longest time, I wasn't sorry. And I wasn't sorry for a number of reasons that we're going to get into later. But I want to present that, and then we can talk about what changed and what got me to this place that I'm at today, sitting in my barracks room on this deployment, Air Force deployment. So it's pretty cushy. We'll talk about that because that is actually part of it. And the first thing that happened that got me started thinking about this was when Paul passed away. And when Paul passed away, I was in pre-deployment training down in El Paso, Texas for this Air Force deployment that I'm on, which again, it's not really a real deployment. I have my own room and I have Wi-Fi to upload this video. So anyway, but when Paul passed away, I was down in Texas for pre-deployment training, and obviously Paul mentioned me by name in his last video. And quite frankly, that took me by surprise. And it took me by surprise because I didn't necessarily understand the level of anger or frustration or hurt that our original YouTube beef had caused. And I didn't understand it because I've had YouTube beefs, I've had internet beefs before, I've had plenty of them because I have kind of a caustic personality and I like to pick fights with people. That's just who I am as a person, and I recognize it, and not a trait I'm particularly proud of, but every now and then I get into it with people. And for me, it's sort of like, for Bison, it was Tuesday. If you've seen the original, well, not the original, but if you've seen the live action Street Fighter movie, there's a scene in there about that. And so Paul name checking me in his last video very much took me by surprise. And then of course, there was blowback from that and all of that. But I didn't really have the time to deal with it, right? I was genuinely busy. I was trying to transition from my real civilian world job to a deployed mindset and being ready to go out the door and be away from my family and my friends and all my whole life for an extended period of time. And so I didn't really have the time to process it. But it kicked me in the guts. It definitely had an effect on me. And it got me thinking about other rows that I'd had with people, other arguments, other disputes and disagreements. And one of the things that happens when you're in a deployed environment is, even on an Air Force deployment, you have a lot of time to think. Lord knows I have had a lot of time to think on this deployment. And I was scrolling YouTube one night, and one of the recommended videos that came up was of when James Yeager's daughter came to the Taurus USA booth at, I think it was NRA annual meetings a couple of years ago. It might have been SHOT Show. I don't remember which meeting it was, but I remember that moment. And I remember it because James and I used to be friends. And I'm gonna tell you a little story here. So I met James Yeager in 2009 at the audition for Top Shot, season 1. And he and I went and got Subway together. We hung out, we chatted. For the intervening few years, we would chit-chat occasionally, never like close friends, we didn't send each other Christmas cards or invite each other to birthday parties and stuff like that, but I would have called him a friend. And then somewhere at some point we had a falling out. And I don't know, and here's the thing with that one, I don't know when or how that falling out occurred. I don't know what I said or did that made him no longer view me as a friend. And I regretted that, especially when I found out that he had a terminal disease. I wouldn't wish the death that happened to him on my worst enemy. And I regretted not being able to close that loop back up with James and mend that fence. And when his daughter came to visit the Taurus booth, when the cameras weren't running, I told her that. I told her that her father and I had had a falling out and that I deeply regretted not being able to close that up, to fix that wound, or to heal that friendship, or even to just have an understanding of what caused it. And she and I had a good talk, and that was that. And so that video popped up while I'm out here with all of this free time to think. And then I started thinking back about what happened with Paul. And I realized that I did have a regret, because regardless of what you may or may not think about me, I'm not actually in this business to make enemies. I'm certainly not in this business to make lifelong enemies. And I started to really regret it. I started to regret the video, the damage that it caused, and all of the other things that went along with it. And that amplified as time went on this deployment. And it amplified as well because of other trends that I've been seeing online lately. Like, I'm on Twitter and Instagram and all of that, because again, Air Force deployment, I have social media, I have internet access. And I have seen increasing divisiveness in the firearms community, and I mean in all communities right now online, everybody is, it feels like, at everybody else's throats, and it's kind of a crazy time to be alive. And I've seen increasing divisiveness in the firearms community, and I had a moment where I realized that even if I didn't enjoy Paul's content, even if I thought some of the stuff that he presented was poor information or, shouldn't be taken seriously, like to this day, I don't think the meat target is a valid ballistic medium, and people should not take those tests as good results for what bullets do. But even if I feel that way, Paul was an advocate for the Second Amendment. He was an advocate for individual liberty, and he was an advocate for personal responsibility. He was on my side, and I picked a fight with him for what? For fucking clicks? For internet laughs? I mean, that's exactly what I did. Because one of the things that people need to understand, or maybe that people don't understand, and it's funny because I still get blowback from that video, which is, my original video is gone from the internet. I didn't just unpublish it, I deleted it. Nope, gone forever. There's still clips of it here and there and stuff like that, but it's gone. And what people don't understand, or maybe they do understand, I don't know, is I didn't have a beef. At the time, 5 years ago, I had a small YouTube channel. Like, I had 60,000 subscribers. It was growing. I had really good growth a couple of years before that when I did a bunch of 1911 focused content, which people really seemed to like. And at the time I did the video, I kind of had this whole bit that I did where I would, to borrow a phrase from our Limey friends, take the piss out of people, right? I would make irreverent, mocking videos, or I would be on people's podcasts and I would talk shit about other people. And it was kind of the whole shtick that I did. And when Paul's revolver videos came out, I had some of my fans send them to me being like, oh, you gotta do a video ripping on this guy. You gotta do a video ripping on this guy. And I was like, okay, I'll do a video ripping on this guy. And I did. And I made some edits here or there to make my punchlines even punchier. I started it off by pouring myself a big old glass of scotch, which I didn't actually drink really during the video, to try to make the punchlines punchier. And boy, Jesus, howdy, did it backfire. Yeah, it really, really backfired. And I regret that too, because I think that looking back on it now, I actually regret pretty much every internet beef I've been in ever. Actually, yeah, that's true. With a couple, maybe with a couple of exceptions here or there, but for the most part, I pretty much regret all of them because they never added anything to the culture, right? Any petty shit fight that I've had with anyone, whether they started it or I started it or anything like that, has never added anything to the online firearms community. It's never made this a better place. It hasn't made anyone smarter, and it certainly hasn't contributed to my personal goal of educating people about self-defense, Second Amendment, and personal responsibility. And that's what I want to do. And so I look back on it now and I was like, yeah, 5 years ago, I thought that shit was funny as hell. And it wasn't. It was just crass and rude and disrespectful. And it wasn't appropriate. Which, again, gets us back to why now. And the why now is ultimately, let me look at my notes here real quick. Let's see, why did I make the video in the first place? To be funny. Explain my whole shtick at the time, which turns out wasn't very funny to a lot of people. So why now? I think ultimately, when Paul passed away, I felt some kind of, I felt sad about it. And I felt sad because, one, I wouldn't wish that death on my worst enemy. Pancreatic cancer is a horrible way to go, and it was horrible for his family to, I can't imagine what that must have been like to go through for his family and his friends, and you have my deepest sympathies for that. And while I've been out here on this deployment with all this time to fucking think, I've had a lot of thoughts about how there is not unlimited time. And the idea in my head that, you know, maybe we would be able to close this beef up and maybe we'd be able to get resolution someday. Well, that's gone between me and Paul now. There's no shot that he and I will ever heal that gap and we will ever heal that rift. But there are still a lot of people out there who have a tremendous amount of respect for him, who cared about him and enjoyed his content. And I want to try to heal the damage that I have caused for those people. Which is why ultimately I'm doing this, is because I regret the damage that I may have caused to the community, to the online space, the rifts, the anger, and all of that. I wish I had never done it. And I wish that if I had wanted to critique Paul's content, I had done it in a far more thoughtful way. Which there are plenty of thoughtful ways to do that, and there's plenty of other videos of me being thoughtful and actually being good at my job while still being a little bit irreverent and a little bit funny. You can look at a lot of the ballistic testing videos that I've done where I'm actually doing pretty good science, I feel like, especially the 410 stuff. That in my opinion is some of my best work. But yeah, ultimately being out here by myself, having a lot of downtime, I didn't want there to be any lingering doubt or animosity or thoughts by people. And I want people to know that I am sorry and that I regret it. And I really do wish that I hadn't made that video and I hadn't caused all this drama, and that, you know, maybe someday there would have been a chance for me and Paul to sit down over a cold beer or a campfire or something like that and just fucking figure this shit out like adults. But that chance is gone for me, and it's gone for Paul. And I hate that. So I guess the other question is, what's next? For me, well, I have a job, so I'm gonna keep doing my job in the firearms industry. I love my job. I am very proud of what I do. It's taken me a long time to get to this place in the firearms space, so I'm gonna keep doing my job. I will probably keep making YouTube videos, although this has never been as big a deal for me as it is for other people. I enjoy occasionally making YouTube content. Everyone knows that I love revolvers, and I will probably keep making a lot of content around revolvers. So, you know, be prepared for more degenerate revolver content for me in the future. But mostly I just wanted to clear the air. And again, I wanted to say I'm sorry. I hurt a lot of people's feelings. I made a lot of people very angry with what I look back on now and realize was just irresponsible shit talking. And Paul didn't deserve that. His family didn't deserve that. And neither did you guys that are watching this. So again, sincerely, I'm sorry. And I hope you will find it in your hearts to forgive me. Thank you very much for watching if you've stuck around for all 20 minutes of this video. And I'll see you again soon.